Welcome back. I kind of like to start a series telling tractor stories, and I feel like it's right to start with this one, which isn't the first tractor I drove, but it's the first tractor I ever owned. Me and my dad bought this tractor. As we're talking now, it's 2024, and it must have been about, I'd say, around 2001, 2002, which dates me at about 10, 12 years old. So, me and my dad bought this tractor. It's a 1957 John Deere 520. We bought this tractor from his boss, who used it at his hunting cabin. They used it to make food plots and things of that nature, and this thing was in rough condition. We bought it for $500, and I don't know how, when we took it apart, after that, I don't know how it ever drove on the trailer. The frame up here was broke. It was a little cracked right there. Or actually, I think no, you can actually still see it. See if it'll focus. You probably can't tell in the camera, but this is cast and this is smooth. It was cracked right down that hole. And we braced it back together and ground it back down, and you can probably still see some imperfections there where they had hit a tree. This gear case down here, right below here, had beer cans shoved in them to try to keep oil in, and rags. Let's just say this thing had a hard life. So around then, 2001, 2002, we brought it home. At the time, we didn't have a 3/4 ton truck or any kind of large truck and a trailer. We borrowed my cousin's truck and trailer and had a tire blowout on the way home, and it was an event. But we get $500 for this 1957 520 and restored it from top to bottom. The only thing that we didn't touch is the bull gears and the front power steering unit. Those went untouched. We found only 2 gears in the transmission that didn't have a tooth knocked off of them. So we found a local man who had a bunch of these old tractors kind of setting out in fence rows, and we found another 520 that we got the gears out of. We rebuilt the engine and got it painted up. Dad traded out some work for a friend of ours we painted the frame and all that, but the sheet metal he did, and base coat, clear coat, car paint, and new tires all the way around. And back about circa 2005, 2006, this thing was sharp. Now, I do know, as far as originality goes, those headlights are wrong. They shouldn't have headlights on it like this. It should have, instead of this being flat, it should be turned, and the headlight, instead of setting, let me see if I can show you, up on top of that bar, the headlights should actually be mounted to the back of it. The headlights would be a little bit lower. But I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, and we'll see if we can get it started up. But this tractor has been sitting here. Well, it ran probably 6 months ago, but we've got it fixed up. We took it to the tractor pulls a few times. The only thing unoriginal that's not right on this tractor that I know of is the headlights, the exhaust stack, which we did that just to add a little bit to it. And then when we took it apart, I don't know if there was something wrong with a piston, but the top ring, they regrooved somebody before the piston, so where the top ring wasn't right. It was a thicker ring, the same as a B. That doesn't have any horsepower or anything like that, but besides that, it's pretty well like it would have come. That, and one thing I just noticed are little toe rings. These tricycle front ends don't have a very good way to tie them down, so Dad added those so we could hook it. We used to haul it quite a bit to shows and to the fair and to tractor pulls. Speaking of tractor pulls, this tractor never did do very good in the weighted class. Of course, it was all stock, and These tractors are heavy old girls, but the horsepower is just not really there. So we were definitely outnumbered. When our local tractor club started a plow class that didn't go off the weight, but just off the plow rating of the tractor, which this would have been a 2-plow heavy tractor, we could really do good in that. But weighted classes, the farmers and that, this tractor, the way it sits right now, weighs about 5,600 pounds. 56, 58. It's been so long since I've scaled it, I can't remember, but right around there, 56, 5,800 pounds. And it's a shame that this thing's sitting here, you know, going bad. Those tires don't have 100 miles on them because, I mean, we put them new that time, and we took it to a few pulls and a few shows. And the reason this tractor doesn't get used is about 2 reasons, really. Number one, it's a hand clutch, and that's fine for field work and stuff. But blading the driveway and stuff like that, when you want to, if you've ever ran a hand clutch, are a little unhandy when it's coming to trying to back up into a corner and operate the blade at the same time as you're operating the clutch. But the biggest reason I don't do a whole lot with this tractor is that a lot of people don't know these tractors didn't run off hydraulic oil. The power troll, they called it, actually runs off 30-weight motor oil. The reason for that is a lot of people, trying to be less shaky here, but a lot of people wanted to just have one fluid they could keep on the farm. You got to keep in mind, back in the day, these tractors were made to be worked on by the farmer. You didn't take them to the dealership every time you needed the oil changed. I mean, you could rebuild them in the side shed and, you know, every few years or however often you need to do it. These tractors were made for simplicity. So, right back here, you'll see that's where you fill the power troll, and it's 30-weight motor oil. So, it works fine being 30-weight motor oil, but here's our hydraulic remotes right over here, and I don't want to use that on anything hydraulic that I use on my other tractors because I don't want cross-contamination. I don't want to get hydraulic oil in this, and I don't want to get 30-weight in my other tractors. So if this is on a hydraulic implement, it needs to pretty well have its own implement, something that the other tractors aren't going to use. And like I was saying, your left hand only operates the steering wheel. Your right hand, you've got to work the throttle, the clutch, the brakes are on the floor. And there's your hydraulic, and there's your 3-point. So your right hand stays fairly busy. And you got to keep in mind that once you get going, you snap the clutch in. So if you get going and you want to stop and pull the blade up at the same time, or drop it at the same time, it's kind of difficult. But that's the reason this tractor hasn't got out a whole lot, is it's just not as useful as the 3020 or the 4320 or the 4440, which this is more of a little chore tractor. I'd like to put a blade on it, and although it's not as, which I have a blade sitting right here, although it's not as handy, I need to get it out and blade with it or something. I'd love, if it was a little bigger, I'd love to roll out hay with this. It would be the perfect hay bale unrolling tractor because it's gas. It would start good in the wintertime, but it's just not big enough to handle a big round bale. But I thought it was fitting to start with this tractor, being that it's the first tractor we ever owned. We've went through it. I've tried to find some pictures of it, of when we redid it, but to no avail. You see, I've got the battery charger on this thing. Hadn't started in 6 months. I don't know if it's got enough battery. I know it'll start if we had the battery. The battery's probably junk in it. Let's just go over here and see if it'll even crank. Pull the choke. One switch on for ignition, and here's a funny thing. Foot starter. So the brakes are individual. Foot starter, there's your PTO, 6-speed. Let's see if it even crank. No, it's not gonna like it. I'm gonna wait for this battery to charge up a little bit, and I'm gonna cut in another video of this thing starting. I'll be right back. Alright, that battery was bad, wouldn't charge up. Went down to the shop, got a new used battery. Let's try this again. There we go. More choke. This is episode 1. Come back. I'm going to do the 30-20 in episode 2. Be sure and watch. Hit that subscribe button. Get them notifications. If you're idling too long, you want to snap this in. I appreciate you watching.